Welcome into the High School OT postgame show. Evan Moesta here, bringing you scores from around the state of North Carolina as games are going final here in Week 8 of the high school football season. Again, we'd like to thank our partners at Talk It Out NC for sponsoring tonight's postgame show and our statewide scoreboard. Lots to get to from around the state tonight, including some top 25 scores from around North Carolina that are beginning to come in. Again, that's on the Talk It Out NC statewide scoreboard. There is never a bad time to start the conversation to stop underage drinking. You can visit talkitoutnc.org. Again, that's talkitoutnc.org. You can get all the tips, tools, and tricks that you need to start that conversation today to stop underage drinking. Let's take a look at some scores from around the state of North Carolina, beginning with the top-seeded Grimsley Whirlies, a 43-8 win tonight over Ragsdale. Again, these are top 25 scores from around North Carolina. Huff 66-0 over Garinger. Another big shutout for Providence Day. The third-ranked Chargers, they defeat Christ School 71-0. Weddington, a 34-7 win over Cuthbertson. The Warriors had Katie Cotton make his debut. The Duke commit tonight. 42-7, Millbrook defeats Broughton. That's the number 6 ranked Wildcats. A 56-0 shutout for Cardinal Gibbons tonight over Holly Springs. Number 9, Hoggard. They pick up a 52-12 win over Topsail. Cleveland extends its regular season win streak to 59 in a row. They defeat Garner tonight 49-28. That game was 7-7 at the half. It ends 49-28. The lone top 25 matchup in the state is that one. Jonas Pope IV will join us in just a bit to break that one down as they defeat number 20 Garner. More top 25 scores from around North Carolina. Watauga 56-0 over South Caldwell. Mooresville defeating North Iredell 49-7. Crest, a big win over Huss. That is 62-7 there. Ashbrook currently leads Kings Mountain in the fourth quarter, 43-7. Actually, that game just went final as I was speaking of it. Michael Mann Jr., who's there for us right now for High School OT, just told me that game went final at 43-7. East Lincoln shuts out Ford tonight, 30-0. Jacksonville, the Cardinals remain unbeaten, a 35-21 win over J.H. Rose. And Brevard defeats East Henderson 46-7. A couple more top 25 scores to get to. Southeast Raleigh defeating Smithfield Selma 57-21. Tarboro defeating Farmville Central 55-14. And Northern Nash defeating Southern Wayne 51-7. One of the scores that was not in our top 25 scores, but it was the High School OT Game of the Week presented by Alpaca Peruvian Chicken. It featured Williams picking up a big road win in conference play against Southeast Alamance. That's where J. Mike Blake was on the call for High School OT, taking in all of that action, and he joins us now here on the High School OT postgame show. J. Mike, Williams got off to a hot start and really rode both the arm and the legs of its quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Kieran Williams with just a huge night, really huge first half. There are 3 plays that Williams had that were 40 yards or more that led to that 21-0 halftime score. And that was the cushion they needed because the second half was a lot more back and forth. So it starts with a play that doesn't involve Fuller, where they have a wide receiver reverse pass, William Overby finding Bubba Sims. Bubba Sims, who was a 3-sport star at Southeast Alamance his last 3 years. Now Williams, he catches that touchdown pass. It's 7-0. Fuller, 64-yard touchdown run that completely fooled me. I've done a lot of football games, right? Over 18 years in media, in high school sports media. I've done Game of the Week now. This is my second season of doing that. I don't think I've been fooled as many times as it was tonight for the mesh that Fuller has, how long he holds it. You think the running back's got it. Instead, he's bouncing it out to the outside. It fooled me. It didn't fool our camera woman, Tyler Suttles, very much, but it fooled me a lot. He had 64 yards on that touchdown run. And then this was kind of the first half backbreaker. Williams definitely had a tendency tonight to find ways to kind of break the will of Southeast Alamance at crucial moments where there's third down pickups, fourth down pickups. This case, they take over at their own 10, less than 2 minutes left in the first half. Worst starting position by far. And what does Fuller do? Another one of those long mesh plays, 74 yards. The ball's at the 16-yard line now, going from their own 10. 3 plays later, they score right before halftime with 26.8 seconds left. Southeast Alamance is like, how do we were driving at one point. We had a good punt. It should be 14-0. It should be 14-7 at half. Instead, it's 21-0. And then the second half, back and forth they go. But Williams had the answer. Fuller with a 25-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 1. He throws a little wide receiver screen to Colby Elliott. That's Elliott's only catch of the day. It's his only touchdown catch of the season, but he breaks a tackler. I guess they thought he was going to step out of bounds because he kind of cut it back and lost 3 other guys, and then he scores a touchdown. And right after Southeast Alamance had made it 27-14, all of a sudden it's now 34-14, and you can kind of feel the wind go out of the sails of the Stallions a little bit.
This Southeast Alamance team had a really good record last year. As you mentioned, one of their top players now is lining up on the other side of the ball. They're in different classifications, though. This is a split conference with 3 different classifications in it. Where do you think the Stallions stand, even though they're 1-3 in league play? Granted, a close loss last week to Western Alamance, and then obviously tonight. And then on the Williams side, what's the outlook here for the Bulldogs? They've been stringing together some really good wins after dropping one to, I believe it was Eastern Guilford earlier in the year.
Yeah, so I think for Southeast Alamance, the good news is they hung with Western Alamance. That's a 5A school. I'm interested in seeing how they do at Eastern Alamance at the end of the year. In 5A, I think what Alamance schools could have some success depending on how the playoff brackets work out where they're not playing one another. However, on the 6A side for Williams, this is a team that they do not measure up in the measurables department against 71st, Terry Sanford, Scotland, some of these other 6A teams, it's Jacksonville, J.H. Rose. They have a kind of a thinner offensive and defensive lines than those schools, but I thought that they had a lot of formations they can run out there tonight. It was the mid-third quarter, and they're putting out stuff we hadn't seen all game, and they were just doing no huddle and quickly reverting into some other formation we hadn't seen all game. That speaks a lot to their coaching, and they have a really tough, hard-nosed runner in Amarion Richmond. He had over 100 yards tonight on 24 carries, so he was quite, could be winding down towards the end of the game. Instead, he got a little bit stronger, it looked like. They don't have to key in on any one receiver, so Fuller can kind of spread it around a little bit. That's been consistent with them all year long. Tonight was the most active that they've had tight end Braden Vetter get into the mix. He entered tonight with 7 receptions on the year, 4 touchdowns, a kind of a red zone threat. Instead, they sent him long tonight, which is also pretty cool that we're 4 weeks away, 3 now, weeks away from the end of the season, and they're probably putting stuff on tape they haven't done all year because Vetter was all of a sudden kind of going things deep post and things like that. There'll be an interesting matchup problem for somebody in 6A. And I think they're a team that if you take lightly, you may find yourself packing up your bags in early November when you didn't intend to. So I think Williams kind of showed me a lot tonight. And their defensive backs. I really cannot get off this postgame show without talking about how good their corners were. Southeast Alamance likes to spread the ball around. They got 3 guys with more than 20 receptions this year. They got another with about 15. And it was not until like late in the third that those guys started getting any separation. Credit to the Williams front 7 for getting pressure as well, forcing some quick throws. But they're really good. And in skill position wise, they spread it around. Skill, the kind of players, the skill position players on defense, those corners, those safeties, they're a problem. And they don't have to play both sides of the ball, which bodes well when you need to rely on your depth going into the postseason.
Well, that is J. Mike Blake, who was on the call tonight for Williams' big win over Southeast Alamance. If you liked J. Mike's call tonight, you can tune in tomorrow at 4 o'clock as he will be at Green Level High School for the WCPSS Cup. That is boys soccer championship action between Leesville Road and Apex Friendship. Thanks, J. Mike.
No problem.
Let's keep it moving. Let's go over to Jeff Lincoln, David Jones from Scoreboard Radio. They had West Caldwell and Patton tonight. How did that one go, guys?
It was a really good football team. Both teams 1-5 coming in. So, really not a lot of buzz around this one. West Caldwell comes in minus their starting quarterback, Justin Blankenship, minus their leading running back in Daniel Bloom, and just plug and play and had a really good night. It was really the Jaden Quisenberry night. He had 2 touchdown receptions. He had 2 interceptions. He had a 76-yard punt return for a touchdown, and West Caldwell had a 28-20 lead at halftime. They turned that into a 42-20 victory. So West Caldwell picks up win number 2 on the season. Got a very good possibility of making it 2 in a row next week when they host Drone, the winless Drone team, for homecoming. But, kind of a feel-good win for West Caldwell, who had beaten Avery earlier this year. Kind of knew Avery was going to struggle. This one feels like a little bit more of a victory over a true peer. So Billy Wisna and Patton stays at that one win for the season. Probably going to be tough sledding for them the rest of the way. But Tony Pilot and company breaking a 42-game losing streak earlier this year and may finish the year with as many as 3 wins.
Yeah, big win there tonight. Some other scores from around the area. Obviously, Watauga just continues to roll. I don't think that's anything bad on South Caldwell. That's just happening to everybody this year, it seems like. But some other scores from around the area. Obviously, Hickory, big win over West Iredell tonight, 52-8. Looking at trying to get some other scores from around the state. But what has stood out to you guys so far?
Well, I think you said it. Watauga wins 56-0. So who's going to be in second place in that Northwestern 6A, 7A conference? A good game tonight between Freedom, who lost last week, to Watauga. They get a bounce-back win tonight. They score with about a minute to go against St. Stephen's. They hold on to win 28-21. McDowell had been riding a 5-game winning streak. They lose on a last-second field goal attempt that was blocked. It was 30-28, Alexander Central leading. McDowell attempted the field goal that got blocked as time expired. So Alexander Central picks up their first conference win of the season, 30-28 in that one. RS Central, went winless in conference season. They're in that Northwestern Piedmont 3A, 4A conference. They went winless in the non-conference schedule, but they've won 4 in a row. They're tied for first place with East Rutherford. East Rutherford wins tonight 57-7 over Chase. RS Central gets the win over East Burke tonight. So that sets up a big game next week. That's where David and I are going to be next week. We're going to be at High Brighton as they welcome in RS Central, and that's really for second place in the conference. So should be a good ball game there. We're waiting to get the final score for Shelby Lincolnton. They're in overtime. Shelby is up 34-33. Last update we had, Lincolnton was going to go for 2. Don't know if they've got it, or either all the teams have called like multiple timeouts to get that one set up. But that's the one I keep refreshing my phone on to see what happens in that one. But Shelby undefeated in conference play, Lincolnton as well too.
I think West Wilkes knocking off Starmount. I think that's a big win.
I was going to ask about that.
Hawks. Yeah, that's a really good win for that West Wilkes team. Wilkes Central picking up a win as well tonight. So a couple of good wins for those Wilkes County teams tonight as well.
Yeah, and I think too, that sits up for next week. East Lincoln, no problem tonight with Freddie Ford. Huge game next week. East Lincoln and Hickory. That's probably going to be the best game in the far western end of the state.
Lincolnton wins 35-34.
Thank you.
Get the stop,
Jalathan Mayfield with the winner.
Wow, the Wolves. So Shelby drops 2 games to start the year. Then they're running like a hot knife through butter. So Lincolnton proving they're for real this year. That's a great win for the Wolves.
Mayfield's really talented, and Lincolnton has been in some tough battles all season long.
Absolutely.
What can we expect from you guys this week?
Tomorrow morning on the scoreboard, of course, we'll have highlights of our game of the week. We'll run through the scores in the Catawba Valley. We're going to have Gary Ayers on. He is the voice of the Western Carolina Catamounts. They have
and Swain
and the Swain
Maroon Devils.
The Swain Maroon Devils. But Western Carolina has a big game tomorrow with Furman coming to Colby. But you'll remember the quarterback for Western Carolina last week set an NCAA record for most completed passes, 46 in a row. They had to ice that elbow down afterwards, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think that record is going to be touched for quite some time.
Grant, I know it was a lot of check downs. I don't think I could hit Jeff 46 straight times in the parking lot of Patton High School against the air tonight. Holy cow.
Yeah, no doubt. A very impressive performance there. Well, we appreciate you guys tonight.
All right.
Keep up the good work, Evan. Appreciate you.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. That's Jeff Lincoln, David Jones from Scoreboard Radio joining us here on the High School OT postgame show presented by Talk It Out NC. We're going to take a quick break here and hear a message from our friends at Talk It Out NC. When we come back, Clay Best will join us. He had a big one tonight.
Don't fall for the myths. Get the facts about underage drinking.
Myth. Teens bounce back fast and teenage athletes can perform just fine after a night of drinking alcohol. The fact is, alcohol can hinder athletic performance for up to 3 days, delaying recovery and causing long-term issues with muscle loss and weakness. But don't just take it from me.
Choosing not to drink as an underage athlete has really helped me significantly. I've been able to focus, keep my priorities straight, and it's helped me separate myself from, many other people.
Get more facts at talkitoutnc.org.
Welcome back to the High School OT postgame show presented by Talk It Out NC. Again, there's never a bad time to start the conversation to stop underage drinking. You can visit talkitoutnc.org to get more information and resources today. I mentioned Clay Best. I think he's going to join us in just a moment here. He had Lee County and South Johnston. It was South Johnston who picked up the victory in that one. Clay joins us now. The Trojans, Clay, they pick up a big 2-score win tonight. Or 3-score, excuse me.
Yeah, very solid night for South Johnston. South's played defense all year. Just a really solid team. Hadn't really gave up 28 points to Harnett Central earlier this year, but 14 of those points were from kickoff returns. And just nothing flashy about what South Johnston does on defense. They just produce. And tonight, Lee County had a hard time really getting anything down the field. And according to what I kept with, Lee County ran 56 plays on the night. 29 of those plays, South Johnston held them to a yard, no gain, or a loss. So just a real solid night again for South Johnston defense. And look out, South Johnston has started to put some offense together. Coach Lee Webb talked to me after the game how they had really kind of challenged junior quarterback Tyler Williams to step it up, to they knew he could do things and help them produce, and he really did it tonight. Of course, a lot of guys for South Johnston involved, but when your quarterback's 18 of 24 for 227 yards and 4 touchdowns, and I'm trying to remember, there was no ball he threw tonight that was in danger of being intercepted. Really solid offensive performance, and that South has scored 80 points in the last 2 weeks. I think they had 52 combined in their first 5 games of the season. Of course, they had the started the season with a legendary 7-2 win over Smithfield Selma, probably a score you'll never see again this year. But a big win for South gets them that back to 2-2 in the conference, 4-3 overall. That was Lee County's first loss in the conference. They're 3-1 and 4-3, and South Johnston start to kind of be one of those teams that is going to tick up that RPI, whatever we want to call that rating, to climb those playoff seedings, and could be an interesting team beginning of November.
Yeah, this Carolina Pines 6A conference is so intriguing because it obviously South Johnston entered tonight 1-2 in the league. Lee County entered 3-0, and now you look at this big win for South Johnston, gets them some good momentum, especially coming off the win last week, 45-7 over Southern Lee. But now they have to go to Western Harnett. They have Triton. Those seem like 2 winnable games, and then they have the big rivalry in the last week of the season against West Johnston. And I think the intriguing thing there with West Johnston is they picked up a big win over Harnett Central tonight. West Johnston had come in 1-2 in the league as well, and they earn a 14-6 win over Harnett Central tonight. So there's a lot of parity in this league, and it's going to come down to the final week here to figure out how things are going to kind of sort itself out across conference play. What was your biggest takeaway about like the strengths of a South Johnston team?
They know how to use their guys. Guys like Mason Weaver, who's a senior linebacker, he had a sack, recovered a fumble, caught a touchdown pass, and ran for kind of one of the icing touchdowns late in the game. Didn't play a lot of snaps on offense, but they kind of knew when to put him in. and he produced when they did offensively. And then kind of a little bit different lead running back for South Johnston than what you see a lot now. Holt Langston, who is a smaller guy. He's listed at 5'7", only listed at 160, but he sure seems like he's a little bit more stout than that. He's one of the. I'm going to show my age a little bit. He's the Mike Allstott, John Riggins type back, where if you can get him before he gets a couple of steps in, you got a good chance to bring him down. But once he gets 2 or 3 steps and he gets up to speed, he can be a little bit of a load. Caught some balls out of the backfield kind of thing. South Johnston's defense and secondary, really nothing down the field. Like I said, nothing flashy about them. They play very well together tonight, and they produce results.
Well, that is Clay Best. He had South Johnston's big 35-14 win tonight against Lee County. You can see that story up later tonight on HighSchoolOT.com. Thanks, Clay.
Thank you.
Let's keep it moving here on the High School OT postgame show. Let's head out to the 336 area code where Leica Beebe was, and he had Northern Guilford picking up a 14-8 win over Northeast Guilford. Leica joins us now. Leica, this Northern Guilford team, what an intriguing resume that they've put together. They've played in some really close games. They have some thrilling wins. They have some marquee victories. They have a little bit of everything, including tonight's big win over Northeast. How did it go down?
Well, Evan, it was a fantastic atmosphere for homecoming at Northern. It really came down to the Nighthawk defense standing up and rising to the occasion, even when the offense struggled in the second half. Led by Chance Cruz at linebacker, he might, I think, from what I saw tonight, could be a candidate for all 22 this week. I also want to make sure I shout out Tajay Alston had a key interception in the fourth quarter. They forced 6 turnovers against a really talented Northeast Guilford offense, and they did not allow a touchdown. Northeast Guilford's lone touchdown came on a pick 6 and to start the second half. But it really came down to the Nighthawks defense pretty much stymied Northeast's offense for most of the night. And a key drive at the end of the game with 5:09 left, even when the offense struggled for Northern, they were able to find a way to close the game by taking care of the ball and finishing it out.
So, yeah, big win for Northern Guilford tonight, 14-8. The Nighthawks are now 6-1 overall. They remain undefeated in conference play. You have to like their chances here, like over the next 3 weeks. They have a home game against Southern Guilford, then they go to Eastern and then Southeast. This is a team that, outside of that 33-10 loss to East Forsyth in week 2, is really staring down what could be a 9-1 regular season.
Absolutely, Evan. As you mentioned off the top when you introduced me, they have several key victories. Obviously, the week 1 win over Reedsville. As you mentioned, 3 straight one-score wins over Oak Grove, Ashboro, and Northeast Guilford. They've beaten some really good teams. If they take care of business, I like their chances of getting a good seed for the playoffs, and I definitely favor them in these remaining 3 matchups. They go to Southern Guilford next week, and I think if they take care of business, they should be in line for a conference championship potentially.
Yeah, that's Northern Guilford's 3rd straight one-score win. Over the past 2 seasons, Leica, they have 9 one-score wins. That is a true testament to the coaching staff there and the players. Obviously, they had a really strong start to last year where they took a unbeaten record deep into last year, but a testament to Eric Westberg and the staff over at Northern Guilford. I'm going to let you go, Leica, because we have some breaking news, and it actually involves one of the teams that has played Northern Guilford this season. Thanks, Leica.
Pleasure's always, Evan.
I'm going to bring in Joel Bryant now. Like Abibi just mentioned, Northern Guilford picked up earlier this season a nice win over Oak Grove, but all of a sudden Coach Creason and Oak Grove, Joel, have a little bit of reinforcements apparently.
Yeah, we just found out, and shout out to Logan Carter for putting me onto this. JB Shabazz, the 4-star offensive tackle who's committed to UNC, he transferred back to Oak Grove just this week. Just today, he was in class at Oak Grove this morning. He started his first 2 years of his high school career at Oak Grove. Last year, before his junior year, he transferred to East Forsyth High School. Played the first however many games they played so far this season. But as of today, he's back at Oak Grove, and they expect him to be eligible to start practicing on Monday.
What a whirlwind for Shabazz. He committed back in July to Tennessee, flipped that commitment to UNC. He's now back at the original high school that he started at, but he truly is one of the top offensive linemen in the entire state of North Carolina.
Yeah, and it puts him back with Ben Boulware, who is another large offensive lineman who is a college prospect. So yeah, that immediately, if he's eligible, that immediately reinforces their line play, and it comes before their big game next week against Mount Tabor, which is effectively going to be the conference championship game in that new conference. I don't know I forgot what it's called. I think it's like Piedmont Triad something. We're getting used to all the new names, but
yeah, we got to get comfortable with these names.
Yeah, the Mount Tabor Oak Grove game next week is a big one. So if he's eligible to play for that, that'll certainly help him out. By the way, Shabazz is probably the only player who is currently committed to UNC from within the state that hasn't made some kind of a public statement in response to all of the UNC stuff this week that was reported by WRL's Pat Welter, all the turmoil going on there. All the other kids had said something either to me or publicly about how they're still committed to UNC. They still believe in it. I haven't seen anything from JB Shabazz, though. So that's something we're going to be watching.
Very interesting. Obviously, Joel, you've been monitoring results from across the state. Jeff Link and David Jones mentioned a little bit. That Wes Wilkes Star Mountain score definitely stands out as a big one, but are there any other games in the state that you've seen so far tonight that have stood out to you?
Yeah, that West Wilkes Starmount game that's very surprising, and also the Ashbrook domination over Kings Mountain, winning 43-7 over Kings Mountain. That's a statement win for Ashbrook. Kings Mountain's not a bad team at all, and Ashbrook is seriously looking at itself as a contender in 6A, and to beat Kings Mountain like that certainly sends a strong message. Maybe this isn't going to be Watauga walking its way to the state championship game. Maybe Ashbrook's going to have something to say about that.
Certainly, and we'll have more from that one up tonight on HighSchoolOT.com. Thanks, Joel. I'm going to bring in Tim Hauer now from Coastal Preps. Tim, welcome into the High School OT postgame show presented by Talk It Out NC. Where were you tonight, and how did it go?
Yeah, I was over at Ashley. They played North Brunswick in a game between the kind of middle of the pack Carolina Coast Conferences. We've got Hoggard at the top, we got Topsail at the bottom, and then when anybody else in the conference plays, flip a coin, basically. And Ashley Ashley won the game tonight 20-6. Really windy. I don't know how it was kind of the rest of the state tonight, but down here at the coast, super windy tonight. So, passing was really tough to come by. Neither team threw for more than 60 yards, in those gusty conditions. So it was really the running game. And really, when I look back at their last 4 or 5 matchups between these teams, it seems like the team that runs the ball better typically wins, and that was the case tonight. Ashley had a really good ground game with Bryson Lovelace. He had 28 carries for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Ashley was able to come up with 2 interceptions. I thought it was going to be a really high-scoring game, and it ended up only 20-6. So just goes to show you that maybe I don't know as much as I think I do with these games down here. But, both defenses played well, and I think the wind kind of had a factor as well tonight.
Yeah, I was over at our game of the week over at Southeast Alamance High School in Swepsonville, and J. Mike Blake and I were talking before the game, this was the first night that it felt like fall Friday night football. Yeah. So definitely it could be felt down at the coast. Actually, Tim, they started the season 0-3. Obviously some close losses. They had the 1-score loss to Sanderson, the nail biter against E.E. Smith, lost by 8 to Scotland. So, not bad losses on their resume, but now they've rattled off wins in 3 of their last 4. And obviously that Hoggard game looms on the last night of the season, but what do you think they can do with a road trip to New Hanover and a road trip to West Brunswick? Do you think those are I would assume those are winnable games, but that really kind of puts them in that driver's seat for the conference, no?
Yeah. I mean, they're 2-1
In the
right
conference,
now.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Laney's 2-1. New Hanover's 2-1. So behind Hoggard, those are the next three teams. So yeah, that Ashley New Hanover game kind of does loom large, especially for 7A RPI purposes as well. I think when I talked to Coach Lombardi, like you mentioned, he mentioned that was the first thing he mentioned was we have 4 losses by a combined 20 points. So really, we could easily be 4-2, possibly 5-1 instead of or I guess 6-1, 5-2 instead of 3-4 like they are right now. But I actually hadn't looked, but he said RPI wise, if the playoffs would have started before tonight, they were actually out. So he thinks this win will certainly help maybe get them back in there. But he understands that those next 2 games are very important to get them kind of over that bubble if they want to make the playoffs and give themselves a chance to make a little noise there. But yeah, they're a good football team. Obviously, when you have to replace the players that they had to last year, starting quarterback, starting running back, and then a kid like Quinn Bentley who played all 3 sports, it's going to be tough. But they seem to be clicking right here at the right time, and their JV team is 7-0 as well. So maybe not the season that they wanted this year, but the foundation of Ashley football has been built, and the trajectory is still, I think, on an upward path. Whereas for 10 or so years, it was either a plateau or kind of heading downward. Nobody essentially is scheduling Ashley on homecoming like they were there for about a 10-year period. If you went to an Ashley road game, chances were you were going to somebody else's homecoming. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No doubt. Any scores from around your coverage area that have stood out to you so far tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, when they pushed a couple games up, when I got to Ashley, people were going, Tim, have you heard the Hoggard Topsail score? Apparently Topsail was up 12-0 in that game, and people were freaking out. And then Hoggard went on to score 52 unanswered. So, New Hanover, good win, 28-14. And then, the team down here that maybe nobody is talking about is Pender, back off to a 7-0 start and really, making some noise. I was at their game last week against Clinton. It was such a long drive. I wasn't able to get on here and talk to you guys about that, but that was an impressive win. I was really impressed with Clinton, a better team than what their record showed. For Pender to come back like they did in the second half, I thought was a really impressive victory for those guys.
Yeah, this Pender team made a deep run last year, ended up falling to Tarboro late in the playoffs in the 1A classification, and they lost a great running back and have just seemingly not missed a beat as they continue to be undefeated so far this year.
Yeah, that East Duplin game is coming up, I think, in 2 weeks at Pender is going to be a really fascinating game. Should be for that East Central title, but East Duplin also has Clinton next week. So the next 2 weeks are going to tell us a lot about that conference and who's going to win that conference title. It's between those 3 teams. So Pender already having one of those wins under their belt and getting East Duplin at home, who knows? Maybe they could kind of shock people, because I think most people expected coming into the season that was East Duplin's conference to lose. But hey, Pender through 7 weeks of the season, or eight weeks, I guess, has proven they're right there as well.
What can we expect from you this week on Coastal Preps? Your coverage area is the proud owner of the first ever 8A 1 seed that has ever come out in NCHSA history. That being
the Hoggard girls tennis team. Yes, really, really cool to see them come out as the number 1 seed. We've got a conference volleyball tournament coming up next week. I think Hoggard's riding like a 15-16 game winning streak right now, so they're playing well. Always good boys soccer action down here, and then of course, Hoggard Laney football next week is the big one down here. So recaps of tonight's games, and then of course lots of coverage throughout next week, and looking forward to that big one, New Hanover County football rivalry between Laney and Hoggard next week.
Well, that is Tim Hauer from Coastal Preps joining us tonight here on the High School OT postgame show. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, Evan.
At the top of the show, we went around and looked at some top 25 scores from around the state. Let's take another look again as we have received some more final scores. Number 1, Grimsley, a 43-8 win over Ragsdale. Number 2, Huff, 66-0 over Garinger. Number 3, Providence Day shut out Christ School 71-0. Number 5, Weddington, 34-7 over Cuthbertson. Number 6, Millbrook, 42-7 over Broughton. Number 8, Cardinal Gibbons, 56-0 against Holly Springs. As Tim had mentioned, Hoggard scoring 52 unanswered to defeat Topsail 52-12. Number 10, Myers Park, a big win tonight, 63-8 over Hopewell. Number 11, Cleveland, 49-28 to Garner. We're going to talk to Jonas Pope IV about that one in just a moment. Number 12, Watauga, 56-0 over South Caldwell. Number 13, Mooresville, 49-7 against North Iredell. And number 14, Crest, 62-7 winners against Huss. Number 16, Ashbrook. Joel Bryant had mentioned how well the Green Wave have been playing. They remain unbeaten with a 43-7 win over Kings Mountain. Number 17, East Lincoln, shutting out Fred T. Ford 30-0. Number 18, Jacksonville, 35-21 over J.H. Rose. Number 19, Independence just went final, a 41-6 win over Chambers. Number 21, Tarboro, 55-14 against Farmville Central. And number 22, Southeast Raleigh, a 57-21 win over Smithfield Selma. Some more scores to get to. Again, this is the Talk It Out NC statewide scoreboard on HighSchoolOT.com. You can go there, view final scores from all across North Carolina. And if you see one missing, there's a report scores tool, and you can just click there, send a score over, and we will get that up for you on the Talk It Out NC scoreboard. Number 23, Clayton, they picked up a 42-7 win over South Garner. Number 24, Brevard, 46-7 against East Henderson. And then it was number 25 ranked Northern Nash, a 51-7 win over Southern Wayne. Some more scores. I had mentioned undefeated teams across the state of North Carolina. Entering tonight, only 27 of them remained. That included Ashbrook getting their big win, Beargrass Charter defeating Hobgood Charter tonight 47-7. Cary defeating Sanderson. That's a big win for the Imps, who still remain unbeaten. 32-29, they hang on to defeat Sanderson. Charlotte Latin picks up a 38-17 win over Cannon. The Cleveland Garner score, again, 49-28 in that top 25 matchup. East Lincoln, Grimsley, I'd mentioned them in the top 25 scores. They continue to have unblemished seasons. High Point Christian, they bend, but they don't break tonight. 24-21. They pick up a big win. Hoggard over Topsail. And then Huff over Garinger. Jacksonville over Rose. South Davidson over South Stokes. 71st hands St. Paul's its first loss of the season, 34-14. The Tarboro win over Farmville. The Watauga win over South Caldwell. Pender, as Tim Hauer had just mentioned, 50-14 over Southwest Onslow. Some other undefeated teams that remain unbeaten are Lewisburg. They defeated ALA Johnston 65-32. Millbrook defeated Broughton. Northside out of Pinetown defeats Pamlico County 49-0. There were two unbeaten teams who fell. Two more unbeaten teams who fell. South Stanley hands North Stanley its first loss 40-0. That's quite the way to pick up your first loss of the season. And then another one, 44-8. Reagan defeats RJ Reynolds, and that's why we'll bring in Logan Carter to tonight's show. Logan was at that game at RJ Reynolds. Before we get into the score, was this your first time taking in what is the new football stadium over at RJ Reynolds, and what was the experience like?
Yeah, that was my first time tonight over at Reynolds' new stadium. They've done a wonderful job. The press box looks beautiful. The video scoreboard. I just love the overall environment of it. You see a lot of buildings with the brick buildings. It almost looks like a small university football field type stadium. So it really felt very intimate and really exciting. Reynolds, they packed it out tonight. They really did. So Coach Davidiak, I know he didn't like the score tonight, but he's really turned that program around. And athletic director Brad Fisher, they're doing a lot of good stuff over at Reynolds High School for the football program.
Yeah, that means so much to that community to have a stadium that they can call theirs now. And obviously, they've had a great product on the field that has delivered on that field. But tonight it was the Reagan Raiders, Logan. They pick up a 44-8 win. Reagan has really started to gain some momentum over the last couple of weeks. Earlier in the show, we were talking to Laika Abibi about that Northern Guilford team that has just picked up all these like marquee signature close victories all season long. One of those was against Reagan, but it felt like ever since Northern Guilford got the best of the Raiders in that one, it feels like Jacob Smith and company and John Evans and all of them have really started to take off.
I think the best way to describe Reagan right now, they know their team identity at this point. And Jacob Smith is definitely going to get his at some point, but I think they've really turned the page over to like, hey, we have a two-headed monster at running back this year. We really want to run the ball, and that's what they did tonight with John Evans Jr. Over 250 yards rushing tonight, 4 rushing touchdowns. I think he had like 137 in just the third quarter. Did not play the fourth quarter. It's just unbelievable. Everybody could see Rich's interview in the post game when he uploads his story. He compared John Evans Jr. to anybody that watched the Giants game last night against the Eagles.
I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about
it. So he compared him to Scatterboo, just grounding and pounding all the way into the end zone every single drive.
Well, it feels like every time we watch Reagan, this guy's going for 200-300 yards, multiple scores, and just throwing defenders left and right. And then you like look around, you look at his measurables, you look at his stats, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's a sophomore.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
That's the biggest thing. And it's been so much fun to watch. I know Rich has seen him 3 times this year, another time versus Reedsville, and then the first game we covered for you guys from Mount Tabor. But it's really exciting to see. You know, I've always been used to McGee and a quarterback going absolutely crazy, you know, through the air. And now he's got a back that who knows by the end of the season how many rushing yards this guy is going to have.
Yeah, this has been a really impressive season so far for Reagan. Obviously, they come out of the gates, get that 14-0 win over Mount Tabor. They hold on and defeat Oak Grove. Then they get the signature 35-0 shutout against Reedsville, fall to Northern Guilford. But since a 3-point win over Lake Norman, a big win over Northwest Guilford, and then tonight against RJ Reynolds, how do you think they fare over the last couple of weeks? Obviously, they go to Parkland next week. That's a winnable game. But you look over the next 2 after that, it is West Forsyth on their home field, and then a trip to East.
Yeah, so that's what we talked to McGee after our interview with him tonight. It's the gauntlet after Parkland, and I just think they're going to fare pretty well with West Forsyth and East Forsyth. I know Joel and I kind of touched on it last week in the post game, and I really do want to see them get, not trying to force the passing game, let it, kind of flow naturally with Jacob. But like I said with McGee, they are definitely a running machine right now with Evans Jr. It's just you got to go with the hot hand and the offensive line. I mean, there's just holes all over the field for him to cut through and break off for 32 yards, 40 yards. I really do think West Forsyth and East Forsyth definitely have their money cut out for them. If they try to overload the box and try to stop the run, Jacob does have that ability to burn you when you decide to do that. So it's going to be very interesting for those 2 matchups coming up for them.
I'm going to try to get Joel Bryant back into the show in just a moment here, but you and him, talked a little bit earlier tonight about the JB Shabazz move. What's just kind of your initial thoughts on hearing that he's going back to Oak Grove, obviously one of the top linemen in the state?
Yeah, definitely really big news here in the Triad, especially I know on the calendar with you guys already, we have a big conference matchup next week with Oak Grove and Mount Tabor. So that's going to be a huge implication for that game. I know he didn't play tonight. I don't know what that entails, with rules and regulations and whatnot, if he'll probably be on the field next Friday. That's a big move for Oak Grove, bad move for, my alma mater, East Forsyth.
Joel, can you hear us right now?
I can. Logan, I assume you're going to that Mount Tabor game next week, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious, does that move kind of change how you're thinking about that game, or did you kind of always think Oak Grove might be favored there? What are you kind of thinking if he does play? Actually, give me
that's what I'm saying. So I don't know how it's all going to work out with county restrictions or whatever, per county. I don't know how it works, but if he definitely plays, that's a huge get for Oak Grove, because I know you and I kind of went back and forth when we talked about that game before the season even started.
Right.
It really was a toss-up, but I think that definitely is a huge get for Oak Grove if he plays in that game next week. Mount Tabor definitely has picked up some steam. They finally they were in a gauntlet the first start of the season, so I think they've been able to really get their offense going and defense going with a couple games over the last few weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see them again, because I haven't seen them since that first Reagan game, John Evans, breakout game.
Yeah, it's still weird Mount Tabor not being in that old CPC conference.
It is very weird.
It's weird to get used to. But I did want to also ask you, what does this do for East Forsyth? Obviously, they won big over Parkland tonight, but I'm kind of thinking in terms of long term, how they're going to fare in 7A. Obviously, Shabazz is probably one of their best players on the team, and helpful to have a left tackle of that caliber. Does that kind of change your outlook on East Forsyth?
It definitely changes the outlook on East Forsyth, because I think a lot of what I was seeing last week, they just couldn't establish the run last week against West Forsyth. So that's already going to hurt you. They were already starting a freshman for one of their guys that's done for the season on the O-line. They were already starting him. So this is a huge loss for the offensive line, because I think, as you guys and Evan would say, you got to establish the run game and the passing game. It's hard to rely on just one side of the football for offense. So I think that is definitely a huge loss. But I know Coach Willard, I know Coach Horton and them. It's next man up, and they've always been that way at East Forsyth. I know, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody, but last year they had the Jalen Moore situation at running back and stuff. He ends up going to High Point Christian, and it was next man up. And those running backs, they dominated throughout the whole season last year. So I know East Forsyth, they're a strong program just because I've been around them for a long time. So it is a huge loss, and you hate to see it in the middle of a season.
Right.
That's definitely a shocker for me, and it's really tough. When you played with a guy all season long and he transfers. I don't know what the situation is and what happened, but it's definitely a loss for East Forsyth on the offensive line.
Yeah, well, it's not the only midseason transfer we've been seeing this year.
No.
So it used to be the crazy ones used to be like the Jalen Moore one, where it happens right before the season.
Right before the
But
season.
now they're happening during the season. So it's
Yes.
we're kind of upgrading here.
I guess we
Kinda
have like a
upgrading.
trade deadline now for high school football.
Yeah, except I don't think we do have a deadline. I think it wouldn't shock me if there's one that happens like right before playoffs or something at the rate we're going.
Yeah. First week of playoffs, somebody's transferred in.
Yeah, it's different times. Well,
It
Logan, we always appreciate your help. Thanks for going out to the game for us, and we're looking forward to seeing Rich's stuff later, and looking forward to seeing your highlights later. We're gonna go to a quick break right now, and we're gonna continue our discussions after that.
Thank you, guys.
Raising kids is a roller coaster. Sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry, but most times you wonder how your kid turned out so well. That's how. You did the hard work, made the right decisions, like talking about alcohol before it could be a problem. Go to talkitoutnc.org. Get resources on how to talk about underage drinking. So Mom, Dad, keep up the good work. It's worth it. Talk early. Talk often. Talk it out, NC.
Welcome back to the High School OT post-game show presented by Talk It Out NC. Let's take a look at some other scores regionally from around the state of North Carolina, including the 252 area code, where Northern Nash defeated Southern Wayne. Rocky Mount picked up a 56-14 win over CB Aycock. Hunt defeated Southern Nash tonight 51-34. New Bern a 46-20 win over White Oak. D.H. Conley defeating South Central 39-14. West Craven a 52-8 win over North Johnston. Northeastern defeating First Flight tonight, 47-6. A nice bounce back there for Coach Antonio Moore. Kinston, a close one against Green Central, a thriller, 32-31. Aiden Grifton shutting out Bedingfield, 42-0. And then North Pitt defeating Southwest Edgecombe, another close 1-point game, that one, 28-27. Some scores from around the 919 area code. Southeast Raleigh, again, the number 22 ranked Bulldogs, 57-21 winners over Smithfield Selma. You can see Southeast Raleigh next week on the High School OT Game of the Week. Some other scores here: Rolesville defeating Wakefield 62-7. Leesville Road picking up a big win over 5-1 Enloe. Hillside shutting out Chapel Hill. Corinth Holders defeating Athens Drive. And then, as I had mentioned, West Johnston 14-6 over Harnett Central. I'm going to bring Joel Bryant in now. As we went over some of those 252 scores, Joel, I think there's a couple that stand out to you.
Yeah, so the North Pitt Southwest Edgecombe game, that was a 28-27 final. North Pitt wins on a blocked field goal at the end of regulation, similar to what we've seen in the NFL this year. So kind of a thrilling win for North Pitt there. That that conference is it's quite hectic there. It's very high parity. I'm not quite sure who's going to come out of that league. North Pitt, they kind of got off to a slow start where they were losing to quality non-conference opponents, but now they've kind of turned around here and started getting some wins in conference play. That Green Central Kinston game, I think there were 3 touchdowns in the final minute. So Tyree Copper, the NC State commit, had a go-ahead touchdown to put Kinston up 26-25 over Green Central with 58 seconds left. And then Green Central's Trey Bynum returned the ensuing kickoff back for a touchdown with 46 seconds remaining. Green Central was up 31-26. Then Kinston, I'm not sure how, but they somehow got another touchdown in the final minute, and they end up winning 32-31.
They've been
Crazy,
involved in
crazy
some
game.
wild games this year.
Yeah, they have been. It's just kind of some of those teams are always kind of like these lightning rods for whatever reason. They always find themselves in some funny games. But yeah, that whole area has been very competitive. Lots of parity in the area. So the new conference where Kinston's in it with Tarboro. Obviously Tarboro is expected to be kind of the favorite there, but Kinston was a popular pick coming into this season. Had some struggles early. They're going to play Tarboro last week of the season. So if there is a team that might have the ceiling to beat Tarboro in that conference, it might be Kinston. It's just a matter of them really putting it all together. Still at this point, I would take Tarboro to win that last game of the season. But if there's a team that could, have a shot at them, it would be Kinston.
Yeah, you would certainly expect that would be a really good matchup of a lot of Vikings in that one. Some scores from around the 704 area code, and there were some close ones there as well. These weren't the close ones. Charlotte Country Day defeating Metrolina Christian 37-0. South Point shutting out North Gaston 53-0. Davie County defeating Statesville 22-7. Butler shutting out North Mech 28-0. Monroe over West Stanley 56-7. And then some of the close ones. Christ the King defeats Lake Norman Charter by a touchdown tonight, 14-7. Lincolnton over Shelby 35-34. And then Sun Valley, they shut out Charlotte Catholic 21-0.
Yeah.
The Charlotte Catholic team has played a really tough schedule. You had a story that came out earlier this week about teams who had the toughest schedules in the state. And then in both the NCHSA RPI in terms of opponents' win percentage and the Max Preps rankings, which determine strength of schedule and difficulty of schedule. Charlotte Catholic was top 5 in the state in both. Obviously, they had a really close win a few weeks ago against Porter Ridge, where they had to come from behind in overtime and win. But tonight, Sun Valley gets them 21-0. And then again, just some thoughts on that Lincolnton win over Shelby 35-34 in overtime.
Well, that Lincolnton-Shelby game was effectively a conference championship game, in my opinion. So that's not surprising that it was that close. And Jalathan Mayfield just kind of doing the star player stuff at the end of the game. He scores the go-ahead touchdown. Lincolnton gets the try to win the game 35-34. Good mention of the Sun Valley Charlotte Catholic game. It's interesting because in a prior situation where we were doing playoffs a little bit differently, those two teams would have been kind of 6A favorites in that conference, the 6A 7A conference. But now that doesn't really matter. It kind of holds less weight, but still a statement win for Sun Valley. They played a tough schedule too. They played the likes of Whitington and such as well. So that's a good win for that program. One other note for you, Hickory Ridge had this kind of a really kind of despondent season last year. They didn't win a game last year. Well, they have 3 wins now. They were down to Cox Mill 20-10 in the fourth quarter and came back to win 23-20. So Coach Gentry is doing a good job at Hickory Ridge in his first year there.
Awesome. Some more scores to get to here from around the state of North Carolina. Let's take a look out west at the 8-2-8, where Hickory defeated West Iredell. AC Reynolds defeating Asheville tonight 26-7. East Rutherford 57-7 over Chase. Mountain Heritage had the same score, 57-7 against Avery County. The big Pisgah-Tuscola game goes in favor of Pisgah, 35-14 tonight. And then in the 9-1-0, 71st defeating St. Paul's. Scotland Terry Sanford. That was a really big one, and Scotland ends up winning this one by 6, Joel.
Yeah, those games are always classics. They're always in these crazy battles, often in the playoffs. But Scotland seemed to have this game kind of in control for the most part. Terry Sanford made a late push there to cut it to 6. But Scotland, pretty impressive performance for them against Terry Sanford. Scotland's kind of, I guess, fallen out of the conversation. The Fayetteville schools all kind of played each other and beat up on each other this year, so the schools like Terry Sanford, they're kind of dominating the conversation. But Scotland, comes into tonight and proves it's still Scotland County beating Terry Sanford. That's a big game for them.
Another big score from the 9-1-0, Midway defeating Wallace Rose Hill tonight, 42-35.
Yeah.
Any other big thoughts or things as we wrap up tonight's show?
Well, another 9-1-0 team is Jacksonville. They're kind of like on that weird
252, 9-1-0.
9-1-0. But them beating JH Rose tonight, 35-21. That's very impressive. Jacksonville, despite losing Damon June, who might be UNC's best player this year, they're still undefeated without him. And that's a pretty impressive win for them over Rose. I know that they were up by a couple scores at halftime. Rose cut it to a 1-score game in the second half, but Jacksonville kind of stopped it from there and ended up winning by 2 scores. That puts Jacksonville in the driver's seat to win that big Carolina 6A, 7A conference. Again, conference championships don't mean as much this year in terms of the playoffs, but anytime you can win a conference championship, that's going to be a good thing for your school. Hang a banner. It looks like Jacksonville's kind of on its way to that.
Well, that is High School OT's Joel Bryant. He's been following scores all night long and will continue to have coverage up on High School OT throughout the night and into the morning. A quick reminder, go into Max Preps, put your scores in. The quicker we can get scores up onto Max Preps, the quicker Joel can start pumping out playoff projections. Last week, we had them out by 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So if you're up in the middle of the night and you want to see what tonight's results, how it affected your favorite school, you can tune in to High School OT's post-season playoff projections as a High School OT insider. If you're not up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing? You'd be just like us, but you can also see that first thing in the morning when you wake up and have your breakfast. You can have a nice bowl of playoff projections there. Before we let you go here on the High School OT postgame show presented by Talk It Out NC, we want to let you know one last thing. Now that fall is here, so is the Talk It Out NC fall giveaway. Now through November, you can start the conversation and enter for your chance to win 6 lucky winners. They are going to receive a $250 grocery card. You can head to talkitoutnc.org, submit your entry, and while you're there, share what's on your mind at the dinner table. Tag Talk It Out NC on social media, and then share special recipes that you have for healthy living, what you feed your athlete, maybe a short video of you cooking, or other ways that you spark the conversation at mealtime. Again, we want to start that conversation to stop underage drinking. Talk It Out NC's mission is to reduce underage drinking by fostering open, honest, and ongoing conversations between adults and young people. Don't wait. Enter today and make every meal a moment to start the conversation. Visit talkitoutnc.org to learn more. We thank you for tuning in tonight to the High School OT post-game show. You can flip over now if you're in the Triangle area to WRL TV, where Chris Lee will take you the rest of the way with highlights on Football Friday. And we'll see you tomorrow afternoon if you want to catch some boys soccer action, as J. Mike Blake is on the call for Leesville Road and Apex Friendship facing off in the WCPSS Cup. For Evan Moesta, Joel Bryant, and the rest of the staff here at High School OT, we wish you a happy Week 8, and we'll see you next Friday night.
Don't fall for the myths. Get the facts about underage drinking.
Myth: teens bounce back fast and teenage athletes can perform just fine after a night of drinking alcohol. The fact is, alcohol can hinder athletic performance for up to 3 days, delaying recovery and causing long-term issues with muscle loss and weakness. But don't just take it from me.
Choosing not to drink as an underage athlete has really helped me significantly. I've been able to focus, keep my priorities straight, and it's helped me separate myself from, many other people.
Get more facts at talkitoutnc.org.